stories, we can't lose storytelling in life because, and the stories are always in the details. Like, I realize nobody has time for stories anymore, but I've lived so many real life stories or met people and heard their story where I don't need to go read books always, because you can go meet a person who's maybe from that culture or whatever. I'm waiting for a song to buffer, but anyway, I watched this movie recently. Very sad story. But in it, I lost the thought. Shoot. I forgot the point in the story, in the movie, that I was going to use for the recognizance plan mission. His dad, the little boy in the movie loses his dad to the 9/11 situation. He was in a meeting in the Twin Towers, and though it's a fictional story, it's based on truth, because many little boys lost their dads that day. And how he reacts to it, and it's just a great movie if you can watch Incredibly Loud and Extreme Close or something like that. But anyway, he and his dad do these recognizant missions with these maps in New York, and how the maps today don't have the original maps of what really is there and how it really is. So anyways, my recognizance mission to what I feel my only retaliation can be to what I now growing in my gut is to a point where I can no longer pass it off as being crazy or hold it in. Like, I have to do what I can to fight for my projects, my children. I didn't have, I didn't get married, I didn't have children of my own. So, I think of the parable of the woman who stole the one woman's baby and tried to claim it was hers, and then took it before the king, and they were fighting, and then one was just like, let her have, because the king's like, I'm going to kill this baby, or I'll cut it in half. That's what he says, and I'll split it up since you can't agree on whose baby it is. And the mother says, no, she can keep the baby, and then the king gave the baby to that woman because he knew that must be the mother, because she wouldn't want to see her baby be killed. While I'm comparing a living human life to something that is not a human life, I still feel a bit like I'm arguing for them already preemptively because of the change in behavior by the people closest to me, who I trusted, who knew what I was working on, and who said that they could help me, and dangled like a piece of meat. That's what I mean by I used it and flipped the script on them. I felt like I was a rabbit chasing the treat around the track in a race, like that dog never gets the rabbit. That rabbit goes and it never gets. So I felt like dangling a treat. Like, I make Gigi do tricks. I don't really anymore or anything, but how you get people to do what you want them to do by dangling treats, and all these unfulfilled promises by people, and then the change in their behavior like overnight and across the board, and not really doing anything that is outside of what happens in normal relationships, with no precedent, no real platform to stand on. It just seemed like justifying their not helping me or the way they were treating me. And so here's the only way that I can react or do something that isn't harmful to myself or harmful to other people, which ultimately will only harm myself in the end, to harbor that hate or to become bitter because of it, or to allow it to cloud you from all that is beautiful and wonderful and blissful in the world, as it did for so long. I realized you have to have an outlet. You have to have either a therapist you can pay or a really good friend, some way to get it out. And poetry and music has been that for me. So because I've been caught the clouds for the past 4 days, whatever it is, it's just starting to get sunny again. Thank God. My mood tends to match Mother Earth. The Earth is bipolar, by the way. We're humans, we have emotions, we're created in God's image. I tend to just go with what happens, lemons to lemonade, and use the emotions, because good things really do come out. And once upon a time, my mentor sent me a disc set. Just reminds me of turning your trials and tribulations into gold, and how I have witnessed God before me turn what should have been a bad situation into something beautiful and good, and all that it renovated within me for the better because of it. So while I realize now that when I post on Facebook, because it's a go-to, it's an easy outlet for me to get out the anger, it's also, you can think I'm always angry, when really the anger kind of stops after I post about it or after I write a song about it, or after I deal with it in some, I try to go for a healthy way. Sometimes I'm out and about and I can't get away, and that's what I mean by verbally vomiting on people. It's like sometimes the innocent bystanders get it, and you take it out, or you take it out on the people you love the most when you get home, because those are the people who love you unconditionally. They'll love you anyways, so you tend to take it out on them, or at least I did. So all these things I'm allowed to enable, because now I have the time on my hands, the isolation, the uninterrupted thought, no noise. I mean, decreased noise anyway. There's still noise to deal with, things I have to do to survive. But it looks like I'm doing nothing from the outside, but there's so much thinking, and I've done so much living already. It's like having your life flash before your eyes and learning from your own self. I never really stopped to do that so much, and maybe when I did, I was more doing it to be blameless-warrior, point the speck out in someone else's eye, instead of use it to be constructive with myself. And that's how God intends it to be. It's always, no meeting between people is one-sided. It's always mutually beneficial, whether you realize it or not. And it really is always a lesson learned, or it's a blessing. I'm losing battery, of course. And I never got to doing the song because, of course, I can babble endlessly. And that's where these things come from. But anyway, I've now written 2 different verses to Yo Gotti's part, well, the full song of Cross Me. And I don't find it ironic or a mistake that it came out right at the same time that I was going through all this stuff. Like, I understand Lil Wayne obviously isn't there like, oh, I'm going to put this song out and encourage this girl. But that's what I mean by being an artist who wants to put out music and not really tell a lot about what my interpretation it is. That's the beauty of art. Any painting you go and observe, every viewer, every person gets something completely different out of it, and you're supposed to. The same with the Bible, reading it. Each of us get out something individually completely different. And the magic that happens with this life extender. But, so anyways, I purposefully do that, but at the same time, it is personal, it is for me, and a lot of time God talks to me through my music, because I'll have these things I'm wrestling with, and it's like He brings up the scripture or the words that ease and soothe and calm that discontented spirit, or that it's really from fear, scared and not trusting, ye of little faith, not trusting in Him. And it just came, like, for example, in a song, in the verse I just wrote, the new verse to Yo Gotti, because I haven't found a new song I want to write to, so I just started to write to Cross Me again because I love it so much. And Yo Gotti's part, it resonates with me because he's saying about all these things, these accusations, or people, his reputation is, maybe he used to be like that or hang around with those people, what have you, but he said, I don't do those things. And so anyway, at the end it says, I trust in the Lord 100%. Protecting me is His jurisdiction, and if it's His will that I've been given, then who am I to fear? Not one. In the Bible it is clearly written. And it's like, yeah, it comes out of me, but God's saying that to me. And I recognize that a lot, Him doing that. And I recognize, and that's why I say Him. It's like a person, but not a person, because it's like not something I hear like a sentence. It's already like, I was trying to explain it the best I could. Like, how do you feel that you're communicating with the Lord, and how do you know it's not just voices in your head? And I'm like, because how do you answer yourself? Why would I beg those questions to begin with? And then how would I then know that? It's a knowing. It's not a hearing of a sentence like when you talk to a person. It's like you hear the whole sentence at once and or is how I put it somehow, but it's still hard to explain. It's like the difference of knowing between when you're speaking in the flesh and when you're speaking in the spirit, because we're human. We'd be God otherwise if we didn't make mistakes and we weren't flawed. But it doesn't mean that we aren't now the vessel for His Spirit. Once upon a time He dwelled in a temple, in a building, and now it's like the movie Her. I've brought this up before. If you've ever seen that movie or watched that movie, the relationship he has with computer, he's devastated to learn that he has this close relationship, what he now feels is like a real person, but then finds out she has 6,000 ever relationships as deep, and she says, don't let that taint our relationship whatsoever. And yet he's still disappointed and devastated by this. And that's kind of the best depiction I have come across to try and understand how God is able to know us each individually and be aware of all that's going on. When we're limited to just one relationship or one thing at a time, we can't fathom how God could care about us when there are 7 billion people in the world. And it's like we don't get our own personal Jesus and our own personal saboteur, the devil, and we can be vessel for either, is what I've found. It's whichever dog you feed more, and the more good I do, the more right I choose, even at all costs, the better, the easier it becomes, and the more long-term blessings that come. And that's where self-control and long-suffering, those fruits of the Spirit, come from, and having patience and being gentle in these situations. And what I mean by running out of patience is, and being, feeling like I've extended already, 70 times 7 twice over to people, because in the Bible it says, oh, come back, you feel wronged? Forgive, for I've forgiven you. Come back to me after, 70 times 7, which I don't know why he just doesn't say 490. I don't know why I just didn't say 980. But the point is, you give a lot of chances until a point where you're exasperated or feel like